Okay, we're back. This is Dave Shaw with More Truth for America, and I'm here today with my guest. And I say all the time I'm here with a special guest, but I mean it today. Dr. Grado was one of my mentors. A lot of paramedics in the area. He's a person that really set our local hospital on a course that far exceeds a lot of the other hospitals. So I'm very pleased, Doc, to have you in.
Well, thank you.
I know you've decided to go ahead and finally retire, which I know is probably BS because you're still going to be around doing stuff.
Well, no, I think I will retire, but I'll still keep active. I still want to. I may not see patients, and that I will really miss. But I think that I will be still involved in EMS. I love the paramedics. I love the EMTs. They work so hard, and they, as you know, they get so very little pay.
Oh boy!
Yeah, I could talk about this forever. These people should be paid much more than they ever do, and it's getting to be a crisis in our county, unfortunately. Yeah.
And I'm going to be doing I'm going to be doing some shows on that here very soon.
Sure.
But I do want to say this, folks, is why we're talking here today. As a paramedic, that I did it for years and years, and I left a very well paying job. I left a 6-figure job to work for $6 an hour as a paramedic, and people thought I was totally crazy.
God bless you. Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get to. If you are the type of person that has an inkling of wanting to do this, you obviously don't do it for the money. It's something. I mean, I wanted to do it from the time I was a kid.
Yeah.
I can tell you that even though you may not have the riches off of it, the memories, the things you do will far outweigh the money issue. So if you've considered becoming an EMT or a paramedic and have a desire to help people and that kind of thing, take the step. The classes now, I mean, when I went through, you had to pay for them. They were really expensive. Now, we need them so bad that there's a lot of options out there. Contact Fayette EMS or Penn State.
Yeah.
I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, it's well worth it. You may not get a bunch of thank yous when you're working, but I can tell you it's amazing how many times down after I retired, people that you have no clue will come up to you. And I'm sure, Doc, I can't imagine the stories that you have and will have. We were talking a little bit during the break about some of the wild things that have happened at the hospital. And you rightly, you did mention that, I'd mentioned some of the bad calls. One that comes to mind with me was a gentleman that shot himself with a shotgun and survived, totally survived. But unusual things, and it's not all just the gore and the nasty stuff.
Sure.
You've got to have some pretty good stories,
Well, one of the story always sticks with me was very similar. We had a gentleman, unfortunately, who shot himself right outside the ER. He was parked right by the doctor's lot, and it was a kind of a quiet night in the ER. We're just sitting there waiting for people to come in. We were actually empty. And this guy drags himself in. He had shot himself and had missed and shot himself in the axle, in the armpit. And so we hurriedly worked on him, and he had a lot of bleeding, and we were trying to stem it. And we finally were able to get control. And the nurse comes walking into the trauma bay where we were working, and she says, "Where's your keys?" "My keys? What do you mean?" "The keys to my car, to your car," she said. And I said, well, okay, well, they're here in my pocket. So she reached in, she got the keys out. I said, "Why you need to know that?" "Well, the police need to get the bullet out of your car. It hit the headlight of my car. Fortunately, I wasn't in the car. I was in the emergency room. It was only about a half hour after I arrived. And so that was kind of a surprise. The bullet was lodged in the headlight. It was kind of a scary thing for me to think that it could have been. I could have been in the car, and of course I felt sorry for the poor gentleman that shot himself. He survived, but had a lot of problems after that.
Well, and you just touched on something that I hadn't thought about. Back when you started, I bet we didn't have a police department at the hospital.
Oh, no, we didn't.
So you guys were on the front line all the way.
No, I have to remember that we once had just one gentleman. He was like 4,000 years old. Poor old Charlie Regal, I think it was his name. And this is way back in my internship. He was the only guy who would protect us. Yeah, now we have a whole force, and they do a great job of establishing security in the hospital, which helps us do what we're supposed to do.
Well, I'm hoping folks get a little bit of a different idea here, that they realize when they're at the ER now, just what you guys actually are going through that you don't see. We're worried about getting done and getting through and getting out, but there's a whole lot more to this game than you guys are dealing with just multiple patients, multiple issues.
Yeah. And some of those patients are very, very sick and require our attention for a long time, and that's what the holdup is for other patients. We try to get a little fast track area or an area where we can see patients quickly, so they can get those simple things in and out, so for the convenience of the patient. But I just want to pick up on a little bit you said about the paramedics. The one thing about paramedics and EMTs, you don't realize the effect you have on your patients. That's the rewarding thing about being a physician, about being a nurse, about being a paramedic, an EMT, a first responder. You really do have an effect on the patient. They'll come back years later and they'll say, "Oh, I remember you saved my life." I may have not saved their life, but they think I saved their life. But but it was just your comfort, your empathy, your kindness that really makes a big difference, and that's the rewarding part of being. Why you went into being
you can't put a price on that.
Yeah. But they still need to get them paid. They have to pay their bills too. We need to do something about that. Everybody expects the ambulance is going to be there. It may not be because it's getting worse. It's getting worse and worse every year because
we've gotten spoiled
here. You
here.
can't maintain at $6 an hour like you started.
That's it. And the other thing too is people are different now. You don't have people aren't. I don't want to say as selfish as more so now. But you don't have people that are willing to give. Yeah. It's a heck of a wear on your family and your body.
Sure.
I mean, I'm a perfect example of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But like I said, if you're considering it at all, the stories, the people you meet, the relationships you get,
absolutely.
You just can't put a price on it, and you need to go in. Yeah. Doc, we're just kind of scratching the surface today, and I want to talk a little bit more on a couple other things here, but I definitely want to have you on more often. I know the last time that we spoke on the radio, I had just a boatload of response off of it and calls. You are an admired man in this county, and
thanks. I appreciate that.
Well, and you deserve it, and that's why I wanted to bring it out today. We're talking about you've got the chance to see the hospital in its infant stages, pretty much growing to today. Just kind of curious what you think, good and bad, because I know there's both of the things that are going on.
This is the problem in medicine nowadays. The rural areas, the areas away from the big centers, are having a problem with medicine. Can't support them financially. We can't interest doctors in coming to places, and most of our physicians either knew somebody, married somebody, or themselves lived in the county. We're fortunate that we're pretty well staffed, but there's only so many people you can get, and when they go to residencies, they're in big cities where they have lots of opportunities, and that's where the problem is. We can't entice them to come to our county, especially an unfortunate county like ours that still hasn't recovered from the good finances that we had back in the early 60s.
Yeah, I think I'm hopeful that at some point people realize just what a gem we have in this county.
Yeah.
But it may not be our lifetime.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
all the things that made us one of the wealthiest in the world at one point, I think will happen again if we get our head out of our backside and change a few things.
Yeah.
And again, one of those jewels in the system is that we do have a hospital, a local hospital, and I can't, I never realized just what that meant until I went through my issues.
Sure.
I had always been on the other side of the hospital bed, the other side of the ambulance, until I became a patient and got to see the care firsthand. I saw an emergency room staff that was just top notch, that immediately knew what was going on with me, that were able to address it. Then I went to the cardiac end of it with the cath lab and everything, and the great care I had there. And I can't say enough this, and I'm sure you probably have some stories on this as well. I can't say enough about the nursing staff.
Oh yeah.
The care that I got was just phenomenal by these guys, and I mean, I just can't say enough. We are so lucky to have a family neighborhood hospital here. I just hope that the political stuff, the red tape, all the stuff that's going on with the healthcare, the disaster stuff we just went through, especially, doesn't ruin it.
Yeah. The nurses. I can't speak any more highly of the nurses than they are the backbone of the hospital. The hospital doesn't run without nurses. This is not the physicians that make it run. We physicians, and I'm prejudiced, of course, we physicians are necessary, but the backbone for the patients is the nurse. The nurse, they really take care of the patients. They are true empathetic people also. Who are concerned, and it's nice to be in your own hometown. Wasn't it nice that you got your catheterization here? You didn't have to be flown to what you would have had.
Not to mention the fact that you then risk the time.
Right, the time. And we always say time is muscle, and you lose that muscle when you're delaying while you're transporting a patient. So, and then you run into the problem. What happens if it's snowing out? Raining and you can't fly in. Now you got to go. You're an hour and a half away, essentially, by land. So it's a big problem.
Yeah, it's definitely been a blessing here in the county. It still is. We need to do everything we can to make sure it stays that way.
Yeah.
Doc, I'm going to take another quick break. When we come back, I just kind of want to wrap everything up a little bit. Maybe talk about, like I said, where do you think the hospital is going to be at in another 10, 20 years? And, you've got to see from, like with my end, from mass trousers to, all the different changes. So maybe what you think the future is going to hold for us too. So, folks, we'll be back in just a minute with more Truth for America. And my guest today is Dr. Corrado from the Uniontown Hospital. Okay, we're back. This is Dave Shaw with More Truth for America. I'm here today with Dr. Credo from the Uniontown Hospital, and we're kind of celebrating today a little bit. We're celebrating a career in medicine that very few people can say that they would ever be able to have. And Doc, you're finally retiring from seeing patients.
Yeah.
I know it comes a time you kind of got to pull that trigger and say, okay, it's time. And I know, especially when you put the effort you put in, that's got to be hard to do.
It was hard. As I told my colleagues at the hospital and my nursing colleagues in the emergency department, I will miss them more than they'll miss me. I tell you, I miss working with them. I really do. I miss the patients too. The good ones, the bad ones, But I will miss it. But I think it's time that I spend more time with my lovely wife, who sacrificed her whole life. She was told by Dr. Hibbs's wife. Dr. Hibbs was the cardiologist many, many years ago when I was young. And Mrs. Hibbs said to Carol, you have to divorce yourself from his life in the sense that medicine will always be first and you will be second. And unfortunately, my wife has done that. She has always let me do the medicine part first. And so it's not my time to devote a lot more time to her.
Well, and that's one of those sacrifices I mentioned early in the conversation that people don't realize. For a physician to do what they do, to be able to do what they do, to be able to take the time for the learning, it's a different life. It becomes your life.
Yeah, it does.
And it is a huge sacrifice. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted you in today, Doc. We need to celebrate everything you've done and people like you do. Because you, like I said with the paramedics, you don't get a lot of thank yous all the time, but you have had the rare opportunity to leave a mark on literally thousands of people in this area. And you have saved lives. You have brought lives in. You've like I said, it's a rare honor.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
To get to do that. So, like I said earlier, I want to make sure we have you on and we talk about some of the stuff later on as well. But before we close out, I do want to. I just got. Where do you think we're going to end up? You've seen an awful lot over the years.
Yeah.
What do you think the future holds?
I think Uniontown Hospital will weather the crisis that it goes through from time to time, because we're very resilient. There are lots of people who want us to stay open. They want us to keep our present level of care, and I think it will. We have good administrators, and I think we'll have a good future. It could be a little rough. There could be a lot of bumps in the road, as there is right now, and they're getting over it. But it will, in the future, be as great as it is now and greater.
Yeah, I'm optimistic too. I mean, I know we have to see some changes.
Sure.
Change is never easy for anybody. The climate out there is different. The financing is different now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're gonna have to adapt. And but I think you're right. I think that we have such a unique facility in our hospital here that it not only will survive, it has to survive. So again, folks, we need to support everyone there, everyone doing that job, because it's a special thing. And Doc, again, I want to thank you for coming in today.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, I appreciate you coming out in your retirement now, because priorities changing that.
Yeah,
I'm
that's right.
I'm hoping I get closer every day to full blown retirement, and I'm looking forward to it too. But it's in your case, it's extremely well deserved. God bless you for everything you've done, and I hope you enjoy.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Your time off. So we'll get you back in again. I'm gonna pick your brain some more.
All right.
Maybe catch you on the lecture circuit a little bit out there. I know you can get out in some of these groups and meetings and things and talk.
I'll be glad to talk. Yeah.
It sounds great.
Love to talk about the emergency department and my experiences through it with people and how they can be aware of what's going to happen to them when they go to an emergency department.
Well, maybe we'll actually do that on another show and
Sure.
and do go through
Absolutely.
the whole thing. So, folks, thank you again for joining me and Dr. Credo here on Truth for America. Join me every Thursday at 3:15 for Truth for America. Have a good day.
Okay.
Great. That's perfect.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I'll shoot this off to them,
Okay.
and hopefully it's on today.